Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the BBC. This BBC has nothing to do with Britain. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, as in the Oceanside Pirates and Buccaneer Beach. Welcome to the BBC, the Oceanside station.
Coming to you from a car-sized drone hovering over Buccaneer Beach, this is the Oceanside Station, created by born and raised OSIDers. It's the Big Buccaneer channel at www.osidebbbc.com, and this is where we honor Oceanside's past while embracing its future. We're the BBC, the Big Buccaneer channel. This is episode 105. For August 26th, 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, do we have some wonderful news. We got the distressing news about the closure of 2 cafes. It's turning out to be something very, very good. That's our lead story. And then the City Council of Oceanside spoke, and as the BBC predicted, they decided to go with 6 cannabis dispensaries instead of 4. We'll tell you about that and the fallout from that. And then we're going to tell you about the rush that's happening right now for all the vacant retail spaces in Oceanside to fill the need for the 6 upcoming cannabis dispensaries. We've got a brand new Baja style seafood grill opening up very, very soon. We'll tell you about that. There was a Supergirl ticket snafu. That's right. Very popular Supergirl contest, an all-female surf contest. But there was also a 3-day corresponding music concert, and there were some problems with that. We'll tell you about that. We've got our beach report. For our happy hour, we're going to tell you about a firefighter-inspired cafe. And for our meter reader, we're going to tell you our opinion about enough already with the reefer madness, hysteria. For God's sakes, let it go. And for our deep dive, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to tell you about Oceanside's own Dolly Parton. And we have part 2 of our interview with City Council hopeful Ricky James. Now, here's the news. All right, we have a few corrections from last week. Throughout this show, I referred to the brand new half-cent sales tax that is going to be on the November ballot that all of us who vote in Oceanside get to vote on. I went back and forth between Measure X and Measure S. Although Measure X was the initial half-cent sales tax, this is the additional one, a second one. It's called Measure S. So I kind of went back and forth between the two. Brain fart on my end. When I said Measure X, I often meant Measure S. That's what's on the ballot this November. And also, I referred to City Councilman Rick Robinson as the former police chief. That was a mistake. Obviously, he's a former fire chief, not the police chief. And also, we told you about how iNewsSource, which is a online news service that serves all of San Diego County. Well, local reporter Katie Futterman is having a get-together at a local coffee house on Wednesday, September 2 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that's going to be at Vigilantes Coffee in South Oceanside on Coast Highway, not Vigilucci's. Vigilucci's is a Italian restaurant in Carlsbad. Sorry for the moment there, folks. So it's September 2nd. Come tell Katie what you care about, and it's at Vigilantes, not Vigilucci's.
Ahoy, mateys! For a safe voyage, be sure to stay seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the boat. And watch your children. And remember, no flash pictures.
When That Boy Good left downtown a few years ago, that left a huge hole. We just didn't have any real good barbecue joints downtown. Well, that sort of left Felix's Barbecue in the Rancho del Oro area as the only true barbecue joint in town. And it was founded, Felix Barbecue was founded 18 years ago by an Alabama native named Felix Berry. And Felix still has the Felix Barbecue in Carlsbad, and the big news that we got just this week is that the barbecue joint that's been around for all these years, loved by many, is going to be resurfacing as soon as this week at the historic building owned by the city of Oceanside. And it's right there on the corner. It's kitty corner from the City Hall complex. It's where the Kettle on Coast used to be. And for years before that, it was Petite Madeleine. Well, Kettle on Coast only lasted a few months. And Felix and all his wonderful barbecue recipes are going to be resurfacing there. We're told as soon as this weekend, when they're going to be probably, possibly, knock on wood, having a to-go service out of the formerly Petite Madeleine's place there, and they're going to build it out, and eventually Felix Barbecue will come back in its all together with a sit-down restaurant. So that's great news that the city got right on it and approved the fact that the lease with Kettle on the Coast could be transferred immediately to Felix Barbecue, and they're going to be reopening with all that Cajun spicing and all that great barbecue stuff that Felix brought with him from Alabama, and it has been enjoyed by locals for 18 years in Rancho del Oro. Well, now it's coming to the corner of Coast Highway and Pierview Way. And in check and see, you might just want to stop by and see if in fact their to-go offerings are going to be open for this weekend. Now, Samuel, who is the manager of Felix Barbecue, told me that the problems that were faced by Heritage Barbecue, if you will remember, right there on the corner of Vista Way and Coast Highway in South O, there was the Heritage Barbecue, and they tried to roast their meats in outdoor barbecues. Well, the neighbors complained, but Samuel said he does not have to worry about that because they're not going to be barbecuing outdoors, that they have these electric indoor grills, and that does just fine for all the barbecued meats that the Felix Barbecue creates. So that's great news going forward. So the old Felix Barbecue is just going to be picked up and dropped into downtown Oceanside, making everybody happy. Meanwhile, the new Baja-inspired seafood restaurant called La Corriente del Pacifico, which will be the 5th such restaurant. There's also one in Mexico City, there's one in Tijuana, there's one in Coronado, and there's one in La Jolla, where, well, we are going to be having the 5th one, and it's going to be opening very soon, any day now. We're not sure exactly when, and it's going to be right there where the Red and White used to be at 510 Vista Way, and it's going to be right there next to Tanner's Prime Burgers, and we're very happy to tell you about that. And by the way, this is not going to be, in an inexpensive place, but if you can afford it and you appreciate Baja-styled grilled seafood, El Corriente will be the place for you, right there where Red and White used to be. Copper King is open. They opened this week. And for dinner, they will not have their alcohol license in place until next week. But if you want to go and sample their burgers where they grind their own meat and they bake their own buns, and they even say they make their own cheddar cheese, if you can believe that. Well, they're open right now, right there on the corner of Horn and Civic Center Drive. And the Taste of Oceanside is coming back Saturday, October 3rd, and that's going to be featuring 70 stops along the way, featuring local Oceanside eateries. As we predicted here on the Big Buccaneer Channel weeks ago, the city was faced with what to do with a 3-way tie for that 4th slot to get a license to open a retail dispensary here in Oceanside. As it turned out, they decided to use not a lottery as they did in Vista 6 or 7 years ago. They decided to go by merit. As it turned out, there was a 3-way tie for the 4th place. And as we predicted last week, the city council said, we're going to give you, all 3 of you, the license. So that's how that's going to proceed. And the staff did say, we urge you, city council, to decide to draw a rabbit out of the hat, to draw straws, whatever, and that only one of the 3 would advance. Well, that's a major, major problem. You don't have to be a legal genius to figure out that if the city said we're going to use merit to judge how you get it, and then at the end, because we had a 3-way tie, we then flipped to lottery, that's a lawsuit absolutely being handed on a silver platter to these people. And luckily, the majority of the city council said, and they maybe figured it out, and they said, we're not going to mix lottery and merit, that we have this 3-way tie. It should have been, we didn't do it right or whatever, because we didn't figure out that there'd be a tiebreaker. Anyway, they did the right thing, it seems like, and they're going to give all 3 finalists a chance to open a dispensary, and there's now going to be 6. Now, here's what happens now. So all 6 of these licensed businesses who were given a chance to open a dispensary now have 12 months to turn in their application for a conditional use permit. Now, this conditional use permit must have an address on it, obviously, right? So they have 12 months from the time they're granted this license. Now, a few days ago, we were recording this on the 26th. A few days ago, the city had not yet granted any of these licenses, but as soon as they do, then there's a 12-month period deadline that they have to turn in their conditional use permit. And then once they turn in the conditional use permit, the city will go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that they are equipped to open a cannabis dispensary in Oceanside. Now, keep in mind, Vista, for over 6 years, has had 10 cannabis outlets, and they've had no problems. In Vista, their guards are not armed. Here in Oceanside, these guards who are guarding the dispensaries are going to be armed. And it is true that one of the dispensaries in Vista did fail, and that happens. So what happened? It was called Speedy Weedy, and Speedy Weedy couldn't pay its bills, so Speedy Weedy lost its license. The city of Vista took it away. That's what happens. So there was no scientific connection to think that Speedy Weedy failed, by the way, because of their stupid name, but we digress. Nevertheless, there are plenty of checks and balances, as City Councilman Peter Weiss brought up at the council meeting last week, that the city can certainly, if you don't play by the rules, if you don't cross all the T's and dot all the I's as specified, then you don't get a permit. And I think that was a very good point. And the stakes are high, ladies and gentlemen. That's because the city of Vista makes $6 million a year in extra taxes. That could be very important for us here in Oceanside. Now, it was estimated that the 4 new dispensaries in Oceanside, the city staff estimated it could bring in an extra $1 to $2 million. That was with 4. Now that there's 6, it might increase to 2 to 3. We'll have to wait and find out. Now, the impact on the business community is going to be huge, since we have all these vacant storefronts that have been sitting vacant for long. Here we are we've got a booming city here. Things are going right, except we have all these empty storefronts. So this breathes new life into all these long-time vacant storefronts. For instance, the laundromat next to the Smart and Final near I-5 and Oceanside Boulevard has been vacant for over 2 years. The retail center on El Camino Real and Oceanside Boulevard, I think, has 5 or 6 vacancies. The Mission and Canyon center there that has a couple of 1 or 2 empty restaurants that have been sitting there right there on Mission, sort of near KFC. Well, they're there. They potentially could be used. And then what about that long-time empty storefront there next to Papa John's and CVS right there on Oceanside Boulevard, not far from I-5? That space has been available. I think Chase Bank moved out about 5 or 6 years ago. So the rush is on now for these 6 potential licensees to find an address and to set up a relationship with the landlord. So it's a boom time now for these landlords that have been suffering with empty storefronts for all these years. We also know that Paul's Place on Mission Avenue, it's sort of a diner drive-through. It's been around for decades. They've agreed to be acquired by one of the original 3 licensees, and the China Star Restaurant, which is right there on Mission Avenue, just east of I-5. That 8-sided building, that is in the mix as well. And also need to remind everybody that the really good shops in Vista, the ones that do make a lot of money, they take in between $600 and $700 a month. The ones that do okay but not so good take in between $400 and $500 a month, and that means that profit could be around $100,000 a month for these dispensaries in Oceanside going forward.
Been up all night. All I wanna do is fix it. Let me make it right. Never know what's missing till it's gone. You know that I need it when I'm wrong. Never wanna see you moving on. Singing that, don't say goodbye. Please don't put it on the line. Swear that I can change this time. You never know, never know. Let me show you.
All right, that's the music of Iration, and that's one of the 21 bands that played last weekend at the 20th annual Supergirl all-female surf contest and 3-day concert. Now, the 3-day concert had 7 bands a day, and it was held at the bandshell right near the pier, and Iration was so popular, that band you just heard a little bit of there, that it caused a little bit of a snafu. And as it turns out, the music at the Supergirl is mostly free, except for a VIP section you pay for. But what they did, in order to make sure they didn't have too many people there, they had you had reservations, and the tickets were free. These reservations were free, but you had to get them in advance. Well, what happened is that the Iration turned out to be so popular that the promoter of the event had to retract and say, never mind, and cancel some of these reservations for the Saturday concert, which headlined reggae band Iration. Now, the Fox 5 TV crew came up here, and they covered the event by saying that they interviewed a guy here in Oceanside who said, "Oh, that was my girlfriend's favorite band, and we had a reservation, and they canceled us, and yet they let in other people who made their reservations after us." And there was another issue that came up where somebody complained that they were told they could no longer use their free ticket reservation, but if they wanted to buy a $165 admission to the VIP area, they could do that. Well, these things shouldn't really happen, folks. But nevertheless, there were no other, there's no fights or anything like that. And I guess this just shows that the bandshell is a hugely, it's, in my view, an underutilized concert venue. And it seems like the city could certainly stand to upgrade the bandshell itself and allow other promoters to come in occasionally and put on events like this. Nevertheless, the contest happened, and there were no big problems. And so we're happy to report that all was well and good, except for this minor snafu with Iration. The only issue I would have is that people referred to Iration as a reggae band, and that's sort of like saying that Florida Georgia Line is a country band. Well, they're not a country band. And ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break the news, but Iration, they ain't a reggae band.
Hold up, I'm tired of playing games with love. Saying I give up is something we're both guilty of. We both know eventually dreams fade away like our memories. Been up all night, and my mind just won't stop racing. Let me make it right. Never know it's missing till it's gone.
The public memorial for recently deceased Jim Wood, who was our mayor for 14 years, and he was in the OPD, the Oceanside Police Department, for 30 plus years, will be Saturday, August 29th from 2 to 5 p.m., and it will be at the Library Conference Room, downtown Oceanside, the City Hall complex. Refreshments will be served by the Oceanside Firefighters Association and the Oceanside Police Officers Association. That's this Saturday, August 29th from 2 to 5 p.m. And reiterating, Katie Futterman, a reporter with iNews Source, is holding her monthly coffee chat get-together where you can come and tell her some of the issues you would like to see covered, and that's going to be Wednesday, September the 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. not at Vigilucci's, but at Vigilantes Coffee House in South O, September the 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Vigilantes. And now it's the Big Buccaneer Channel's Beach Report with the latest from Oceanside lifeguard Captain Tyler Berry, who tells us that his department weathered the storm and they happily hosted tens of thousands of guests to our beaches this week, last weekend, I should say, for the Supergirl Surf Contest. And the heat wave continues. He's got rescues every day. The waves there's a big swell. The waves are 4 to 6 feet. And Captain Berry also tells us that there was another event that happened at the same time as the Supergirl contest. We didn't even know about this. And it was held at the Oceanside Harbor. And it was the outrigger contest where they had 50 boats competing, and these are canoes, I should say. They had 50 canoes, 6-man canoes competing for prizes, and that also brought a lot of people to the Oceanside Harbor. Captain Berry tells us that he thinks that it might be a good idea next year to stagger these events and not have them on the same weekend. Nevertheless, the Oceanside folks, all of our paid employees, handled all the influx of people, and there were no big problems. Now, the Labor Day Pier Swim returns again this year, and the lifeguards will be out there with their jet skis and their boats around the Oceanside Harbor to help you if you get in trouble around the Oceanside Pier. That starts at 8 a.m. Labor Day. And there were some recent promotions within the Oceanside Lifeguard Department. Ryan Rhodes was promoted to sergeant, and Dylan Smith became a full-time employee, as a senior beach lifeguard. And these are 2 of the 18 full-time lifeguards for the city of Oceanside. Captain Berry said he lost 3 this year as they moved on to new positions in firefighting or in the medical assistance field. They're preparing for the El Nino, which could bring some big rains here to Oceanside, and the 100th anniversary of the Oceanside Lifeguards is set for October 17th. They're going to have an open house and other celebrations on October the 17th. The water temperature is gone up again. 2 weeks ago, it was 75. Last week, it went down to 65. This week, it's back up to 75 degrees off the coast of Oceanside, California. This is the Oceanside Station, the Big Buccaneer Channel, and we're very proud and pleased to have with us Ricky James, and he is a commercial real estate broker. And Ricky, I must say that there have always been good people in Oceanside or in other cities that cry foul when developers turn city council people into whores by giving them money and making them tap dance. It's nothing, it's nothing. The fact that practice has happened for years and years and decades, that's a reality. And there's also people who cry foul. And that's why this Levine Act was passed. And it's a state law that prohibits such activity at least 12 months after you get a donation. But normally, it's not from somebody who's a commercial real estate broker. But I guess you're sort of in the development real estate business, sort of, and it just seems like it's an unusual sort of a position for a commercial real estate broker to take, to bring out this egregious breaking of the law on the part of Rick Robinson. But I guess
it is. But my dad's been a home builder my whole life in the Inland Empire. Now he's retired, and my sister works for Lennar, and she went under his wing for a little bit, and I forged a new path and went commercial real estate after a while of figuring out what I needed to do and build a career for my family, and had different connections in that world, but they're two separate worlds, residential and commercial real estate.
Okay.
And I did past 10 years, I focus on industrial real estate, not multifamily, not, subdivisions, anything like that. But I do have a little bit of knowledge of transactions and seeing more than the typical politician.
All right, so let's backtrack again and condense it. And that you discovered that Rick Robinson got $2,000 from Dustin Campbell, who had a development that went through. It was passed 5-0 in May, and yet he got these $2,000 donations, totaling $2,000 from the Dustin Campbell family 8 months prior, and that's pretty blatant. It doesn't get any. You can talk about, as some of us do, like, why, Mr. Robinson, are you taking $9,900 from Howard Jacobs? Why are you taking $1,000 from real estate tycoon or short-term rental tycoon Fishbach? And you're going to vote for them. And I'm sure both of their 12 months period is over. He can violate the spirit of the law, but he actually violated the letter of the law in this case.
Yeah, and I've waited a little bit to confirm it, but like I was saying last week, the 460 from last year didn't show any contribution being returned to Campbell, and I think he was well aware of when the contribution was made in October to his campaign. $1,000 to his campaign isn't small change. It's one of the bigger ones. So you would notice something like that coming in, and he knew exactly who Campbell was.
As indicated by his emails that you got by public records request.
Yeah, but either way, I wanted to let it play out and see his 460 come out for this year, which goes up to June 30th, and within the 30 days after the vote, which is another rule. If you return the vote upon knowing of the permit being approved or not, then you can return the money. So I just wanted that timeline to pass as well.
Oh.
And those 460s are due July 31st. So I jumped the gun a little bit because I didn't want this to go much longer, and I filed with the FPPC on July 18th and didn't have his 460 yet, but I got the ball rolling. It was a sworn complaint. I just threw my neck out there, and my name was on it, and I knew he would see that. And anyways, I did, and he filed his 460 on July 31st, the last day you can. And
there's no return.
Yeah, and the FPPC wrote me back and said they need more time to investigate.
All right,
on August 3rd.
Hold on for a second. Let's backtrack.
Yeah.
The FPPC is the Fair Political Practice Commission for the state of California. And it's sort of a faceless agency. They're supposed to be policing violations of campaign law. And, like if you tear someone's sign down or you do something corrupt, and they're sort of hard to connect with from what I gather over the years from talking with other people who have reached out to them. But you did reach out to them, and what did they tell you?
Let's see. I got a complaint number, and they are still deciding whether an investigation is appropriate. They plainly stated that there's no determination about the allegations or about his culpability, but and that's, I heard from him yesterday, and that's still the case, but it's very laid out.
It certainly is. This is the Big Buccaneer channel. We're at www.osidebbc.com. We thank you very much for listening. And today we're speaking with part 2 of our interview with Ricky James, who was drawn into running for political office because he smells something very rotten in Denmark, or in this case, something rotten in D2. And that is some obviously illegal contributions accepted by Rick Robinson on the part of a developer. Now, your whole point of running, though, is you're not a whore for developer money. You say that in the outset. You don't seem to be raising much money at all, or are you? Or where are you on that?
No, I've used $500 so far to make my own signs.
And that was a donation from your parents?
Yeah, shamefully, I can say, in a way. I don't want to be taking money from my parents. It makes me sound like a little kid, but but my parents are very supportive and have always been in my corner, so I love them.
So, of course.
Yeah, man.
Of course. But now let me bring this up. If anyone is listening and would like to donate to Ricky James for D2 City Council seat, by the way, it's a 4-year term that begins in, December of this year and runs for 4 years after that. And but what is your website? And if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah, my website is oceanside2026.com. My cell phone number is on there, and my email address, links to my Facebook and Instagram. But reach out to me, and I'll take it case by case.
Okay, well, your plight really fascinated me, and I'm very frankly, we're not making a whole lot of money here, folks, and it costs a little bit each week to put this out, but that's okay. I'm not whining, I'm not bitching, I'm not kvetching, as they say in Yiddish. But the point is that I'm very glad that I was able to, once I heard about this, to have you on here. But you're telling me that not everybody out there is even giving you the time of day.
Yeah, I've reached out to a couple of them. I think, KOTC is supposed to do the candidate interviews sooner or later, and I still haven't heard from them, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, they've notified us that they're dissolving, so
yeah.
I wouldn't hold my breath on a KOCT thing. But nevertheless, you also reached out, you told me, to the Coast News.
Yeah, a couple times, just a couple ideas, and I might have an interesting story just running in general. I think it's out of the box and interesting, but no response back from anyone yet. So I saw you speak last week, a couple weeks ago at City Council, and you were investigating the same stuff I was, and you have more balls than me right now to speak on it, and you said exactly what I wanted to say. The only thing you missed was this contribution to Campbell.
Yeah, that's kind of a major thing to miss. But let's be real clear for both of I think we can speak for both of us right now. Rick Robinson's a real nice guy. He's very likable.
I don't deny that. I've never met him in person. I've never dealt with him, and I'm sure he is, and it, as a human in an empathetic way, it doesn't feel great to call someone out.
But who's going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like one of the major people who are running is is Emily Gonzalez, and she's on the planning commission, and but she doesn't seem to. My impression is that she wants to go along and get along and be sweetness and light, and that's all very nice. But for the love of God, this is the land use of Oceanside property and land is so, in my view, the most important decision that the city council can make. Of course, we care about public safety, no question about it. But if we're turning into Manhattan Beach and we are allowing people like Rick Robinson, who might be a nice guy but is breaking a law by taking money from a developer and then voting on that development 8 months later, that's obscene that's happening, and that he's telegraphing out to everybody that this is how business is done in Oceanside. Well, that's really disgusting, because if he telegraphs, hey, you want to get something done, you come here, brother, and you give me some money, everything's going to be fine. Just give me the cake, baby. What?
Just to add to that, yesterday I posted something, but he has two big signs up, and according to the sign regulations of Oceanside, which I filled out and I have those, you can put up campaign signs whenever you want on private property. It's the campaign signs that are in public right of way that you have to wait until 30 days up to the election. He has two big 4x4 foot signs on two properties in District 2 on North River Road. One was that land I was talking about that I would love to put a pump track on. The owner of that land is a coffee grower and a dog rehabilitation company. Not a nonprofit, let me make that clear, because on his website, it does say every cup of coffee sold goes to help saving shelter dogs. That's a quote. And there is no amount, there's no percentage, there's nothing tied to that claim, that advertisement. So this business down there is running his sign, commercial sign, and the regulations of commercial permanent signs, it has to be commercial or industrial property. That land down there is zoned to agriculture. That falls in with residential. Residential, open space, institutional, and agriculture is limited to 6 square feet, which is a 2x3 sign. This yard signs that you see at houses.
Yeah.
So he's running a commercial size sign on agriculture property. I don't even think he knows the rules.
Well,
and the other project that it's on is Mr. Nagata's Tierra Norte project on North River Road, planned for 227 units.
Right.
In application process right now. Why are his signs up at 2 pending projects?
I don't know, sir, but I'm very glad that you're running. All I can say is I'm sorry that I can't vote for you because I don't live in your D2 district.
You can vote for me when mayor time comes around.
Oh, you're going to vote for me? You're going to run for mayor?
No, I always have big dreams, but
okay. Well, dude, I just hope people pay attention, and I hope the media, and I think I know, as we spoke before, we don't have to go into details, but I think I know of one media source that is in fact going to cover what you're doing, and I hope others follow through. This is very important news about Rick Robinson, who is our incumbent, who just apparently can't say no, just cannot say no to a developer's money, and then breaks the law by voting on it during the period you're not supposed to vote on it, and it's not good. But
I would like to add, and if this is in closing, I do agree with a lot of Rick Robinson's policies.
Sure.
I just don't agree with the way he goes about doing it. Emily Gonzalez is a completely different candidate, than my policies and what I believe in. So is, Oscar. So those, I think, were the 4 maybe qualified candidates. We're waiting on a couple others to see if they actually qualified or not. But, it's a completely different voter to go with Emily, to go with me or Rick or Oscar. And Emily seems like a great lady as well. There's just key issues that I would not back out of running, which, North County LGBTQ plus CEO reached out to me at the very beginning of my candidacy and was like, why are you running and this and that, and why don't you drop out and support Emily? And I was like, well, if she has better policies than me, I will. And then as soon as I found out about her policies, I'm like, there's no way. Those aren't my policies.
You mean Max Disposti?
Yeah, Max.
And is he the same guy that gets paid $120,000 a year?
You know what? You know what, Ken? It sure is.
I'll be damned. I'll be damned. Well, Ricky James, tell me again your website and how people can reach out to you should they wish.
Yeah, OCEANSIDE2026.com.
This is the Big Buccaneer Channel, and we have been speaking with Ricky James, commercial real estate broker, who is running in District 2 for the city council seat now held by Rick Robinson. This is the BBC. We know a place, the Flying Pig, that only serves buns made by a local craft bakery. A place with the same super prime beef provided to Tanner's Burgers. The Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen has an unbeatable fried chicken sandwich, and the Flying Pig makes its own pasta daily. Daily lunch pasta specials may include spaghetti or rigatoni or campanelli, whatever pasta is made that day, drenched in bouillabaisse sauce. The Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen at 501 Mission with a magnificent homemade pasta lunch special from 11:30 to 4:30 weekdays. The Flying Pig is the place for freshly made pasta and weekday lunch specials. www.oceansidepig.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into Oceanside's deep, rich past. It's Deep Roots, Deep Dive. If Oceanside had its own Dolly Parton, it would be Candy Kane. She was, like Dolly, a bigger-than-life entertainer. She was bigger than most women up top. She was 44H. I'm not making it up. And she had a multi-album music career based on Americana and her showmanship. Candy Kane died 10 years ago here in Oceanside, and she had pancreatic cancer. But she was an amazing performer, and I knew her from the days of the Belly Up in the 80s and 90s. And but she was raised in Highland Park, and she would talk about her rough upbringing, about how she used to sing to all the cholos just to avoid getting beaten up. And that she was also, when she was young, she was born in 1961, she was on Ted Mack's Amateur Hour. And if you remember that, you're a senior, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, there was a TV show, it was called Ted Mack's Amateur Hour, and she appeared there as a little girl. And Dolly Parton's thing, of course, was country, but Candy was sort of a burlesque swing, blues, and American classics sort of mixture. And but before she started her music career, she had 20 albums, ladies and gentlemen. Before she started her music career, she had a career as an adult film actress, and she was in films and magazines. And she was a columnist for something called Gent magazine. But she got into the cowpunk scene, and she played alongside some of the bigger punk bands like Black Flag and Social Distortion and Circle Jerks. And she was sort of playing alongside other Americana bands like Lone Justice and Los Lobos and the Blasters and the Paladins. Now, the Paladins were also a staple of the Belly Up in the 80s and 90s. They were a trio, sort of rockabilly-based, only gritty rockabilly. And Candy met Thomas Yearsley, who was the stand-up bassist in the Paladins, and they moved to Oceanside, I think it was in the 80s, and Tom opened up his studio that was right there on Wisconsin Street, which is on the corner of Wisconsin and Tremont, which, by the way, was the exterior of it was used to film the bar in the TV series Animal Kingdom. But nevertheless, Candy did have, before they came down here and she was married to Tom, she had a recording career where she had a development deal with CBS Epic Records. And that deal fell apart, and she never actually got to put out a record on CBS Epic because they found out about her background as a, in adult books and adult films. But she had 20 albums out, and she did work with producer Val Garay, and of course he worked with Kim Carnes. And she worked with many others, and she had records out like on Antones, which is a famous blues label. And the records span all kinds of genres. And some of the songs that she put out, which she wrote herself, Candy Kane was a songwriter as well, just like Dolly Parton. There's another comparison. They sort of had fun with her own full-figured countenance.
You need a great big woman. You need a queen-size woman. You need a big butt woman. You need a well-rounded woman. You need a great big woman to show you how to love.
All right, one of the songs, one of the albums I remember was called Burlesque Swing, and she called herself Burlesque. I guess that was a nice way of, talking about her X-rated past. And Candy says many of her inspirations were singers like Big Mama Thornton and Etta James. And Candy could camp it up, but she could also sing with body vocals. And Candy, as we said, died in 10 years ago in 2016. And we definitely miss her. Her son, Evan, who she had when she was 17 years old, still plays around, and he has a band called Son of Cain. And many of Candy's records are still out there. Remember one of them, it shows her in with boxing gloves. It's called Knockout. And another one's called Diva La Grande. And Dave Alvin, who was with the Blasters, he produced some of her songs. And Candy was always a fun party to watch. We miss her dearly. And I urge that you look her up. And she lived until the end at the house right across on Moore Street in South Oceanside, right across the street from Primo's Market. And Candy Kane, we miss you, but as far as I'm concerned, you were our Dolly Parton.
All you can eat it all night. All you can eat it all night. All you can eat it all night long. Well, I wanna tell you about a place. Put a smile upon your face. We open when the sun goes down.
I like it too. Yes, I do like it.
Delicious.
Yes.
It's time for happy hour. That time on the Big Buccaneer channel when we highlight an oceanside eatery or night spot that features food or drink specials during happy hour or any time they choose. Today, for the first time in 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, that we've been doing the Big Buccaneer channel, we're going to go outside the city of Oceanside. That's right, our first Oceanside adjacent happy hour. And for that, we're going to go to Bonsall, the town that's just immediately east of us. And we're going to go to the Backdraft Bar and Grill. And it was inspired by Stormy McInerney, who was a Bonsall-raised Fallbrook High School graduate, firefighter for 32 years, much loved guy. And Stormy was with the North County Fire Department, and they serve Fallbrook, Bonsall, and Rainbow. Well, Stormy retired in 2019 at age 54, and he lived where he grew up in Bonsall. 3 weeks after he retired, he had a massive heart attack and passed away, and it was devastating to everybody in Bonsall, everybody who knew him. So brother Chris, 4 years ago, sort of spearheaded the effort to open a bar and grill in his honor, sort of inspired by his brother, and it's called the Backdraft Bar and Grill, and it's right there in Bonsall, sort of in the shopping area right before you get to the street you turn to go into Fallbrook, and it's where the Bonsall Fire Department is, and also where Ringer's Bar and Grill is, sort of right around the corner from there. And the Backdraft Bar and Grill has their happy hour Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. And it's real simple. It's $2 off of everything. $2 off of, they have a full bar there, so it's $2 off of all the beer, wine, and drafts. And then they have their burgers are between, they have 6 different burgers, and that's between $15 and $16 each before the happy hour. And the hero sandwiches, which are regularly $9 or $17 depending on their size. They have 4 types. And then they have sourdough pizzas, and their main dishes are pasta, salmon, and halibut, among others. And the Backdraft is there at Bonsall, at right there before you turn to go to Fallbrook off of 76. And their happy hour is $2 off weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
Delicious.
Oh, have some more. Get the waiter and bring it. I'll put on the paper hat. Get out the lamp. I even like the cork.
Now it's time for the Oceanside Meter Reader, the segment where we gift a local person, place, or phenomenon on its degree of wonderfulness or worthlessness with a rating from K Magnifique down to nuclear dumpster fire. At the city council last week, there was a 3-2 majority who voted to make all 3 of those who tied for the 4th slot to get a license to open a retail dispensary in Oceanside a chance to continue to apply and to get a conditional use permit. Now, it was interesting to hear those who spoke against it. And one of them was a woman by the name of Karina Delgado, and she is a full-time staffer who works for the Vista Community Center, and she tries to stop young people from using alcohol or drugs. And of course, nobody wants young people to use alcohol or drugs. What she said is that when you have additional dispensaries, that encourages young people to turn to, in this case, drugs, marijuana. So I called up Karina Delgado and asked her, could you, since you're in Vista and you've got 10 dispensaries that you didn't have 6 or 7 years ago, surely you have some data that proves that youth in Vista have been turning more to drugs because of the fact that there are more dispensaries in Vista. She sort of hemmed and hawed, and she says, well, I can get you the data. So we're going to wait for next week to hear what her data is before we go into too much depth on that. But it does look to me that if you're not 21 and you can't get into a dispensary, it makes me wonder, what are you talking about? Now, she did admit to me that youth means those under 18 years old, so 17 and under. Oh, and granted, if there's some connection there that shows that having extra dispensaries out there encourages these kids to start smoking pot, how can that be when they can't get in until they're 21 years old? I mean, we have a casino in Oceanside, and you can't get into the casino and gamble until you're 21. Gambling does destroy some lives, granted, but what does it matter if you can't get in unless you're 21? Liquor destroys lives as well. But we have bars and we have liquor stores throughout Oceanside, but you can't get into these places unless you're 21. How does that make young people more apt to use bad stuff if there's more 21 and up dispensaries? We cry BS on that. Then there was Esther Sanchez, who went through her whole reefer madness hysteria. She replayed that all over again, and she voted against it, she said, because it's just going to cause all these young people to turn to drugs. And again, I'm crying BS. We respect legitimate discussion of kids not using marijuana. I agree. I don't like it when adults use marijuana in the daytime. I don't get it. Well, how do you function? It makes you a zombie. Why are you doing this? But anyway, it's everyone's choice. Kids are a different matter, of course. And there are plenty of people out there delivering pot door to door, and I'd love to name them by name, and maybe one day I will. These are the people who go unchecked and they deliver pot door to door, and the sheriffs and or police departments will not bust them for door to door delivery. And yet that's still happening. Kids can still get it that way, but they can't get it from legal, licensed dispensaries who operate under a microscope. So that gets anybody who wants to perpetuate reefer madness hysteria, trying to drum up drama and telenovas and God knows what. This is ridiculous. It's preposterous. That gets those who would perpetuate the reefer madness hysteria the second worst Oceanside meter reader ranking. It's a public embarrassment. It's a turd in the punch bowl. It's this week's civic train wreck.
Oh no.
That wraps it for episode 105 for August 26th, 2026. This is the Oceanside Station, the big Buccaneer channel at www.osidebbbc.com. We are all Oceanside all the time with a new show every Wednesday. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, and we'd like to hear from you. And we're at 442-452-2623 or via email at osidebbbc@gmail.com if you'd like to receive a link to a new show every Wednesday. Special thanks to Ricky James, who is running for Oceanside City Council, and to Oceanside Lifeguard Captain Tyler Berry, and to our own audio producer engineer, Von Ramirez. And until next week, this is Ken Treadway saying thank you, Oceanside.